Welcome. I'm Debbie Rosas, and you are listening to Get In. It is all about conversation with people that have had incredible journeys, living in their body and living their life. How? Well, by making choices and decisions that leave them feeling better. And I talk about self healing as doing something, a small act of kindness that leaves you feeling better. Something that Nia has been doing since 1983 when I first took off my shoes and said, well, that feels better. People around the world, they benefit. They help to deal with and sometimes even eliminate pain through movement. That's why in Nia we say through movement we find health. Now, today's episode is with somebody that I have known for a really long time in the 90s. This is somebody that first gave voice to the NIA technique training materials, transcribing everything in German. It was so exciting to know that this work could be shared by Ann Christensen. And it was amazing to watch people take this work in their own language. Cornelia Merk, I call her Connie. She's the author of Revolutionize Your Health: How to Take Back Your Body's Power to Heal. Who doesn't want that, right? I love the concept of taking your body back. We're going to talk about that. Um, and also, heal your back. I don't know anybody that doesn't have some kind of a back issue. Heal your back for good? Really? We're going to hear how. And is that really possible? And most important, without drugs, without surgery. Now, before I move on, don't get me wrong. Drugs and surgery, when they're necessary, they're necessary. But we're going to hear a different perspective. And Ania, it's all about different perspectives. We don't have to agree, but sometimes we can hear a different perspective that sheds light on something that opens us up to another possibility, purpose, potential possibility. Welcome, Connie. I am so glad that we have this opportunity to talk on a professional level about your work, about your writing, and also about your path. So I'd like to start there. I'd like you to tell everybody your path. How did you find Nia?
Thank you, first of all, for having me. I'm so excited to be here. How did I come to NIA? That was a very interesting journey. I actually came to NIA through Anne Christiansen. And she was, before she actually discovered NIA, she was my therapist. She was my massage therapist. And at the time when I met her, I was actually living with excruciating pain after an accident that I had in 1990. And so for many years, she was my massage therapist. And then in 1998, in February, or actually before that, she told me, I think you should come to this dance workshop. And I kind of looked at her and I kind of said, you know what? I don't think that is something for me. I wasn't in my body at all.
Uh huh.
I had lived with excruciating pain. I couldn't lift my arm.
Wow.
I had totally disconnected from my body. And whoever has ever been in pain for a longer period of time, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You're, I just had completely disconnected. I couldn't be touched. I couldn't move. I was so out of my body. And then being offered to come to a dance workshop, I said, no, Aunt, that no way. And
Yeah, it sounds
but
it
then
sounds kinda
life into
crazy. I'm sure you thought, "Are you kidding me? You're my therapist."
Yeah, and if you cannot even move your arms, and then she's talking about dancing, and I'm kind of thinking, no, that is definitely not what I wanted to do. And then there was a situation with my daughter that I actually had an excuse not to go because she was supposed to be for a swimming competition in a different city. and I had promised her to go with her. And but I was kind of, maybe I should, and if Anne kind of wants me to do that, maybe I should. And but then I said no, I go with my daughter. And what was really interesting was that really life intervened, because I was speaking on the phone with a friend of mine and talking to her about that situation, and I'm not sure what I should do. And I in this conversation, I kind of said, the only way I can go is if Melanie gets sick. And I kind of said it so flippantly, as you sometimes do, and forgot about it. And 2 weeks later, the day before the workshop with Carlos was actually happening, my friend called in the morning and she said, "So is Melanie sick yet?" That was the first thing she said to me.
No way.
And as I said, I had totally forgotten that I had said that. And I said, "No, she's fine. She just went off to school." And 2 hours later, the headmaster called me and said, "You have to pick up your daughter. She's sick."
Oh my
And for me,
gosh.
that was the sign that I had to go to that workshop. And so I did. And I was very, very uncomfortable the first few hours. I could see all these people dancing, and I felt so clumsy, so out of my body. And I really didn't know what to do with my body.
Yeah.
And then at some point, Carlos said, "And now we play some music, move your arms." And I remember that I just froze. At
Oh,
that point, I couldn't lift my arm higher than my shoulder. And then I should suddenly move it. And he kept playing music with strings. And for me, that was always when music like strings are playing, I want to move my arms. And so I did. And Carlos came over to me when he saw how I froze, and he just said, "Just follow the music. Just listen to the music. Don't think about your body. Just listen to the music." And I did. And after a short while, I forgot. And I just was moving my body. And I had a spontaneous remission that day in that workshop. And so I was out of pain after being in pain for 8 years. And no therapy had helped. And then going to a dance workshop, Mia with Carlos, got me out of the pain. And that was in February 1998. And in June 1998, Debbie and Carlos came to Germany to do their first wipeout. So that's when I started my work with Nia.
it's amazing. That's amazing. It's I tell this story of how Carlos did not want to go, and Stir said, "You're going. This work needs to be shared around the world." And I think back on how honestly how frightened he must have been without having any idea whether people would be turned on to what we were doing or not. But I do remember him coming home and and sharing, Debbie, this work can help people. I really saw it, not just Americans, but people, all people. And we had lots of conversations, around that. When you talk about a spontaneous remission, and I know you've written a book about health and well-being, can you describe a little bit about what that means?
The spontaneous remission was really something that I didn't expect to happen, because I was told that I will just live with pain for the rest of my life.
Wow.
And then having a spontaneous remission means for me that I was actually out of pain. I had For 8 years I hadn't slept through the night at all, not one single night, because every single night I was waking up. My body was, particularly whenever I tried to settle down and kind of relax, my body would just, the pain would come back. And I would just wake up every night. And after that workshop, I went home that first night. It was a 2-day workshop. Went home the first night and I slept through the night for the very first time in 8 years. And I couldn't believe it in the morning when I woke up and I said, "What happened here?" And then that pain that had really destroyed my life never came back. And so that was one part of the whole story, because that was actually then what took me on the path of later writing the book is what happened?
Yeah, right?
What happened in that workshop that 8 years of therapy couldn't do when we tried to actually do everything in order to get out of the pain? And what was really interesting was it took me 5 years to figure that one out. And
So what do you
it
think
was
happened?
on a,
I
in a,
mean, I've got my analogy from a science point of view of what happened. What do you think happened in that room?
I shifted my perception. I shifted my focus, or it's actually more, I shifted my focus on in that moment. Um, I don't know who's ever been in physical therapy, but often enough when people are in pain, you are told, okay, lift your arm and you bring it up until the pain sets in. And that's how far you can go. So what do? You focus on the pain. You're waiting for the pain. So my whole focus was always, okay, I have to be careful. I cannot go. I have to wait for the pain. So I was in pain. That was what my focus was on.
Right.
And in that workshop, when Carlos said, just listen to the music, my focus shifted. I was no longer focusing on my body and the pain. I was focusing on something outside of it, of me, the music. And I was just following these movements that were the music and the melody. And I was doing all these movements up here that I couldn't do. And, but that is what got me out of that vicious cycle I was actually in, of only focusing of actually what I didn't want, which was the pain. But that was where my focus was. And later on, I learned that whatever you focus on grows, gets bigger. And so was kept in pain by me focusing on it all the time. And that workshop and focusing on the music was what got me out of it. But it took me 5 years to find that answer.
Well, it's
I
you.
just was happy that it had happened.
Yeah, right, exactly. You bring up something that is so very important in terms of what we say in NEA: music, movement, magic. And music, there's a term, not a Brahma, everything is sound. Everything has a resonance to it. And the sound waves and the vibration, they move through our tissues. And you're so right about saying I shifted my perspective, what I was focusing on. In Aikido, we learn energy follows attention. Whatever your attention is on, as you said, it will grow bigger. And, the body, given the opportunity to move and find the path of least resistance, will always move in that direction. And I love how you describe, in many ways, you unlocked your mind that was keeping you locked in a particular field, basically, energy field. And the music disrupted that in a sense and allowed you to get out of holding a pattern or a belief system. And that is so very important when it comes to healing. I know in Moving to Heal, we say, do you believe that you can heal? And if you don't, then we have to really begin to look at what is possible, right? Instead of where, like you said, where's the point? Oh my gosh, I can't do any more. What can you do, right? What can you do? And I love that story. It really does speak to getting out of your own way in many ways, and how music played such a beautiful role in your recovery. Now, you said it took you 5 years. Were you consciously seeking an answer to that spontaneous remission, or was it just kind of unconsciously always there?
It was always there, but it was also, I was looking for it because I started to really study. Of course, I did the white belt first, then the blue belt, and the brown belt. And so I was reading lots and lots of books, and I was always looking for an answer to that question, what happened then? And 5 years later, I was actually attending another seminar where it was all about how to use your mind to get results. And he was saying, whatever you focus on growth. And the moment he said it, it was really the light bulb went on. That is, in this moment, I realized that up to that moment in the workshop with Carlos, I had focused on the pain. And in that moment, I had shifted to the music. And that was when I realized what had happened. Before it was kind of, yeah, it happened, but I didn't know why. But that moment kind of shifted me. And that is when I really started then to look into what role does the mind play in healing. And so I studied everything about placebo effect and how do people heal, and some other people don't. So what is often the common denominator of people healing or not healing, and how much impact actually the mind has.
So what's the common denominator for people that heal versus don't heal when it comes to the mind?
Uh, you already mentioned it, the belief that it's possible, the
Mhm.
belief that, and it doesn't matter what they believe in. They can believe in the drug they are taking, because that's what often enough happens when they
Yeah,
take the placebo pill. But it has also been shown that people who have a fake surgery, fake back surgery, fake knee surgery, where they just pretend they are doing something and still they are healing. So, what do they believe in? Why are they getting better if nothing has been done to the body itself? So, there's something in the belief of having been helped that brings about that healing. And so I was really studying into that. And then from there, I realized, okay, there's more to it. There's also emotional aspects to, if people want to heal, sometimes they just don't want to, because there is maybe a benefit of being sick, or having something going on in their life where they get maybe more attention. And so it was kind of a development with reading all the books, and then also having a lot. I don't know what happened, but I was teaching Nia classes, and I attracted so many people that were suffering from different kinds of pains in the body, similar to what
sure.
I had experienced.
Yeah.
And I was just attracting them. And I felt at some point that I needed to give them more personal attention. And so they were sometimes asking me, when I shared my story, can you help me? And because of all the training that I've done with Nia, and one of my favorite things at that point was always sitting in a public place and observe people and seeing the energy. I was suddenly able to see the energy in the people and where the energy was blocked. And from the knowledge that I had studying anatomy with what we did in Nia, I and knowing all these movements, I knew what I could do in order to help these people. And I had also quite a bit of knowledge of um, trigger point therapy. So I combined the two, and I had amazing results with people that had been sometimes 20 years in pain, and a couple of sessions with me, and they were pain free. And then I was always asking, so what's happening here? And it was always the same. They believed that they could heal. They got something that um, triggered maybe the body to activate the self healing, and it worked. And I can tell you, I was probably one that was the most surprised that it happened.
Always.
I had no intention to do that, but life just provided that opportunity to me.
It's fantastic. That well, and that you didn't doubt yourself. We talk about having the belief that you can heal. So very, very important. And in terms of helping others, having the belief that you can facilitate, as you said, the self-healing response. The body is designed to heal itself. All we have to do is cut ourselves and watch how quickly the body goes into repair and taking care of itself. And yeah, sometimes we need a hands-on, a hug, a pressure point. Hey, try palms up, whatever it might be. Listen to the music. And it's such a profound thing to witness for me when I see how really simple it is in many ways. And why do we make it so complex is what I always ask myself. Why do you think that the medical system continues to overlook the power of the body's ability to self heal? Why is there not more of that kind of support, do you think?
It's because, unfortunately, medicine has become a business.
Yeah.
That is, I guess, one of the things that I could see. If For me, my philosophy has been from the very beginning, I can kind of show you what you need to do because I understand what the body needs to do. I can show you, but you have to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm happy if I only see someone twice, maybe three times, and they can do it on their own. But that is not how our medical system works often enough, that it's always, okay, you have to come for 20 times to have physical therapy instead of actually, first of all, often enough, we are only treating the symptoms and not the root cause. That is definitely why I wrote also the book about back pain, because particularly with back pain and knee pain and the structural alignment things,
Yeah.
it is so often just an adjustment of how people walk. And this is why I so love Nia, because just teaching people how to put their foot down and bring the weight down in the proper way changes the alignment in the body. And simply by changing that, people have already had planned their knee surgery, and just showing them how to walk properly, they didn't go because the pain was gone. And for me, that showed me that there is such a big gap between we can easily do when you know what to do, instead of just saying, okay, now you have issues with your knee, so the cartilage is gone. Now we have
Right.
to have a knee joint replacement. Instead of shifting the way the body walks and or the foot comes down, and you shift the weight distribution in the knee and in the foot, and then just by doing that, the pain might be go away completely without doing any surgery. And that is has happened so often in working with people that this is what became then my passion.
Is that you call it TRIVAnetics? Describe what that is.
TRIVAnetics was actually kind of the idea that we have, that you bring body, mind, emotion together, and then you see what the body what needs to be done. And for me, it is looking at a person, and then I can see, okay, there is a muscle that is not working or very one sided. So, what do I need to do? Which muscles do I need to strengthen? And which muscles do I need to loosen in order to bring the body back in alignment? At the same time, what I want them to understand is the aspect of the mind,
Yeah.
because if they are not behind it, if they are not believe it, it's very difficult for the body to do the work, because the mind needs to come in as well as the emotion. So that was definitely one of the things that I, at that point, came to my mind. I was looking for a word, and that the tree was the three things: body, mind, emotions, that kind of came together. Today, I would probably name it slightly differently. It's been a long time since that, because I have continued on my journey, and the new things have come into my life since then.
What new bit of information has surprised you the most? Like, what aha have you had recently?
Yeah, I guess the biggest thing that was also the part of my own healing journey was how it's kind of interesting that we not normally don't really think about that is but what the importance of what we take into our body mentally, of course, emotionally, what kind of news are we watching, what are we surrounding ourselves with, but then particularly food. And so I had my own journey of having to kind of change my diet. And I was introduced to Ayurvedic, um, to a lineage of Ayurveda. And when I really started to understand how food actually impacts every single thing that we do in our life, that shifted me as well. So the body aspect is one thing, but if we don't feed our body that it can actually get all the nutrients it needs, then all the rest um, might help for a while, but it's not really enough in order to really sustain and actually get younger as you get older.
Yeah, sustainability. It's such an important word. And I love how you point out the importance of taking in the right kind of nutrition for our brain, right? So that our brain has the nutrients it needs for our mind energy, our mind life force to function in healthy and meaningful ways. Nutrition, good nutrition for our emotions, and again for, of course, the body, the sustenance, as well as the spirit. Do you did any kind of spiritual practice play a part in your healing?
Um, what is my spiritual practice is meditation, definitely, but a lot of what I do is actually, I guess, the greatest joy I have is listening to music. That is for me. I have often this feeling that I hear a song or I know that I hear it for the very first time, but when it's being played, there is such a deep connection already in my body. So there is definitely something that touches me on a spiritual level, big time. So I'm always surrounded by music, and this is why Nia was always such a pleasure to be around because of the music that's being used. It's not this kind of typical gym music. It was always something that fed my soul at the same time.
It's so true. I just finished writing an article about Nia sounds and how important the music has always been in Nia, not to pay attention to beats per minute, but to truly find music that affects the chakra system, that has different instrumentation, that really becomes a healing component as well as a conditioning component. And as you so beautifully shared in your initial story, when Carlos said, just listen to the music, just be in relationship with the sounds, the vibration, the waves that are moving through you. It's such a way to let go of the stress, the thinking mind. It's impossible to hang on to your stress when you listen to music, right? Or it's almost impossible to hang on to anything. It's like the music just gets in there and just moves through and creates a different relationship of consciousness that I believe helps us reprogram, as you say, our perception or our thought of possibility. The music, in a way, kind of reprograms. Um,
Absolutely.
how did how have you continued to work with pain? Pain just doesn't go away. We don't just all of a sudden never have pain. So, how do you work with pain now? How has your relationship changed with pain?
Um, my relationship with pain has changed in the way that I can actually talk to my body. And one of the things, whenever there is pain, I'm kind of looking where is it coming from? Kind of where do I feel it? Where's the muscle that might be causing it? Or
Mhm.
and then I tell my body to relax. I can tell you one story. One day I had a kind of a injury, so I wasn't walking properly for a while, and I developed severe back pain. And because of the way I was walking, and one day I had to walk someplace. I didn't have a car, so I had to get somewhere, and I could hardly put my walk. And but I had to go about walk for about 2 miles. So I said, okay, that is going to be really hard. And I kind of while I was walking, I connected to that part in my lower back. And I constantly told my body by focusing on that point, relax. With every step, relax, relax. And it took maybe 3, 4 minutes, and the pain was completely gone. And that is also when we have fear that there is pain, we tense up, which of course increases the pain. But by me telling my body, relax, it actually follows my instruction. And
Right.
that is one of the things that I learned now. If I cut myself on my finger, I can tell my body, stop bleeding. Particularly when I'm in the kitchen and I'm cutting some uh, carrots or whatever, and I cut myself, then I don't want to have the blood. So I can look at my finger and say, okay, it's okay, you can stop bleeding, and duh. So we have so much power that we are not aware of until we actually try it out. And I came to trust my body all the time now that I can talk to it. I listen to it. What I do in the morning is probably one of the greatest gifts that also that Nia has given me is the gratitude for my body. Waking up in the morning and kind of going through my body and saying thank you to every single body part and acknowledging it and thanking it for what it does to for me every single day. And that has become, I guess, and that has become kind of a daily practice now, waking up in the morning and doing that and having this shift from not being in my body whatsoever, being able to kind of really listening to my body. When I eat something, I always track what is happening right now in the moment. How do I feel when I eat something? And then, according to what I feel and what comes up, I make choices.
Beautiful.
So there's a really deep connection now between what I call myself and my body. So there is definitely something that has still developed over the many years since I started NIA that I couldn't have imagined at that time.
Well, you were certainly a writer of your own body and life story. Was writing always a passion for you? Was it something that you always did professionally?
No,
No.
it was. I guess it came out of a kind of a frustration that I felt that I have knowledge to share. And with being in first in Germany, and then I was in England and Ireland, and then at some point I moved over here to the Bahamas, and that I couldn't reach enough people. And I said, okay, so how can I reach more people? How can I share that knowledge that I have accumulated over the years? And one day I was just sitting there and "Oh, okay, you write a book." And I said, "Yeah, okay, I have no idea. I have never written a book or anything." I had like a download. I had within a couple of hours, I had the layout of the book. It was just flowing. It came to me. I knew I had to talk about the body. I knew I had to talk about the mind. I knew I had to talk about the emotions. I needed to talk about energy and how energy flows in the body. and about the spirit. And each of those have a different awareness that is necessary to create change. And it was kind of, I had exercises coming to my mind that I could do for all of them. The book wrote itself more or less. It was
Wow.
really something that I had not planned. And yeah, and then it took me long because my mom got sick and my father got sick and then he passed away and then my mom got sick and she passed away. And so I had some gaps in between. So all in all, it took me 7 years. But yeah, it was something that I felt I needed to share because I have a combination of knowledge that probably no one else has.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, it's time to step out and share it.
Well, I'm glad you were patient. I'm in the process of writing the Body's Way book, and somebody says, "Oh, what's it about?" I said, "Well, it's 40 years of experience that I'm putting into something," and uh, I agree with you. There's something very powerful about holding a book in your hand, and for me, and reading somebody else's words. I'm not a Kindle person. I like the book. I like to write in the margins, and I like to feel the paper. Um, and uh, share receiving the wisdom of someone else's path and someone else's story. It's always interesting to me. There's always nuggets that I receive from someone else's story. How do you today stay connected to your body and to that wisdom that you said, "I've just gotta share it."
Yeah, I still do Nia every day. Um, I guess besides the physical aspect of Nia, I cannot tell you how much the principles of Nia have influenced my life. And I just want to share one thing, and that is what we did listening to music. And how much that has changed my life because when I started really listening to the music and counting the bars and doing all these things, um, I first of all I could hear things in the music that I could never hear before, and but that is what I very quickly then incorporated in my life was actually to listen with the same kind of attention to when people were speaking to me. So being that attentive and listening to the nuances in people's voices when they speak, because so much is transmitted not by the words they are speaking, but by the tone they're speaking. So so I picked up things that um, I didn't know that were there before that. And it took a few years really to get to that depth that I have now. And for me, is now I listen to understand. I not just listen to somebody's story, but I listen to really hear what is even behind the words. And I would have never gotten that if it hadn't been for that practice of listening, really listening. And I'm so grateful for that. And then the other one that is to see every movement that we do as a dance, dancing through life. So that is for me fun because when you dance, there is just the word even dance makes me happy. And so for me, in the kitchen, turning around, okay, that is like a little dance, and I often have, of course, then the music playing. And so for me, life has become a dance. So that is kind of how I keep everything. Uh, Everything is now a body experience, fully embodied experience.
That makes me very happy. So, for our listeners, we have a principle in the other 13 basic principles in a training that we offer called the Art of Sensation. And the third principle is all about music, and it's about sound and sound resonance. And it's way more than listening just to the beat. but really listening to the rhythm and the melody and the harmony. And then this practice we have called raw, where the body, you sit upright, relaxed, with your body exposed. You can feel the resonance around your whole body. Alert, your mind is alert, meaning what do you notice coming out of silence and returning back to silence? And then the W, waiting. You're waiting for the sounds to come and go. And that practice of raw, as Connie so beautifully shared, changes the way we listen. We're listening again not to just an instrument. We can name the instrument a horn, but where does that resonance affect us in our body? And then, dancing, turning every movement into a dance. That's part of the Nia lifestyle, which is part of our last principle. And dancing through life is exactly what Connie just did when she turned. Every movement feels like a dance, dancing. And so we have the dancing, the things that we do, but we also have those moments where we're not moving, and that becomes what we call a living meditation, so that any part of the body that's touching something, like right now, I'm sitting in the chair. So there's no need for my thighs to be tense. There's no need for my buttocks to be tense. They can be meditating because they're in touch, they're in contact. And then life is art. And, Connie, you so beautifully present what does it mean to live in Nia, we say, as a sacred athlete, playing the game of life on the field of your life, seeing every moment as sacred, seeing yourself and your body as sacred, and making choices and decisions to win the game of life. And that is, like you said, putting your head on that pillow and being able to sleep through the night, being able to make healthy and well decisions that allow you to follow your purpose, as you said, to share this deep wisdom you have inside, through not one book but two books, and to take your life experience and share it in a way that you're helping others heal is, I think, one of the greatest gifts we can give back to our body and to God, to the universe, is that I am using this life experience to leave a big wake and legacy behind me of touching people's lives, and you've certainly done that. What was the probably the biggest surprise to you in writing your first book?
Um, Biggest surprise was what I thought I knew a lot already, but then actually writing it, I had to dig really deep and go into a much deeper understanding. And what I also noticed is I left it to spirit or the universe to kind of tell me where to go.
Uh-huh.
And it was really amazing how things showed up in my life, and that has actually been the case that since the encounter with Nia, actually, that I really feel that my whole life is in a way already planned out. And so whenever there's something I need, it just shows up. And that was really obvious while I was writing the book because I knew I had to write body, mind, spirit, emotion, and energy. But I didn't feel qualified to really talk about emotions because I wanted to go deep. But for really giving advice on that level, I felt that I couldn't do that because I just didn't have the knowledge. And so I was looking for someone who could write the part about emotions. And I I don't even know where I put it down. It might have been in Facebook or somewhere where I was asking for someone, and I had two people who responded. And the first one I called, we had like a 2 hour conversation, and it was clear she was the one that needed to write that part. And so these were just things that I didn't expect to happen. like how I didn't know how to write a book, but then it just happened. And in a sense, it was an easy thing to do. But I trusted that the knowledge and what needed to go into the book would come. And that is really something that I learned after that um, spontaneous remission, to really trust. And one of my mottos is really that life is happening for me and not to me. When I was suffering and in so much pain for so many years, I felt like a victim. And I realized that even that experience of being in so much pain was in the end a blessing. And to really change my perspective into life is happening for me. So everything that happens, even if it doesn't look good at the moment, there's always a deeper blessing behind it. And so I go through life now, and when something happens, I always ask, okay, so what is the blessing here, instead of feeling like a victim? And that has all become part of my life philosophy, I guess, that this is the way to live, that I trust that whatever happens is for me and for my soul development.
Yeah, the trust, the developing a relationship with your body. Um, did you have the experience in your life? Now I'm talking about in your personal life. Okay, you had pain, and then your life was drawn towards something, right? My life is happening for me, right? Something was happening for you. You went to this dance class. Um, was there something when you were digging into emotion that happened in your life and you went, well, I'm researching emotion. It makes total sense that this would be happening for me.
Um, I had more also the understanding. There were a lot of healing coming from that, writing about the emotions to understand that what I was dealing with was not so good childhood. That was my father was an alcoholic, and to kind of accept that, and also knowing that because of what I had experienced as a child, how that had formed me, but I had to let go of the blame game that I was doing. And while I was doing some research, I read a book. Cannot remember the title at the moment, where it said, we chose, I don't know if it's true or not, but we chose our parents.
Right.
And so my so then immediately turned towards myself, okay, what is it that I needed to learn in that relationship with my parents and in my upbringing, and why did it happen for me? And so I started really, there is so much healing that came out of that, um, going into this emotion and having all these discussions with my co-author Janet Nestor, and I realized I needed that to heal myself. So that writing the book was a healing journey on so many levels, and that is why I look back now, that when I can really say everything, having this accident, having really a great surgeon that did the surgery at that point, and then meeting Anne Christiansen. Without meeting her, I would have probably never heard of Nia. I have no idea where my life would be without that. So I can really look back on my life and how everything just was like orchestrated, and has taken me on and continuous path, not necessarily the one that I had thought I would go.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I wrote the book, and I I was then at many listeners here might know Jack Canfield. So I was in
Yes.
Jack Canfield's house,
because he has a kind of for aspiring authors. He has the like a workshop where you can go to, and you can and he will then help you to develop maybe the concept or the title or whatever still needs to be done. And I was there, and I met young man who was talking about a different book that he was about to write, and he talked about that. And when he spoke about his book, I knew that I had to be involved in what he is doing because it spoke to me. The book that I wrote was very much kind of everything is researched. Everything is there's stories in it, but it's all research and very kind of
Factual.
mm,
Mhm.
factually. Yeah, that's the right word. And when he spoke about all the miracles that he had witnessed in 10 years with being with um, someone from India, they call them master healer. Um, I was so fascinated, and so I offered him to, as that is my original profession of being an editor and translator and proofreader. And so I said, okay, when the book is done, I would like to proofread the book. And so I got totally involved, and that's how I then got into the Ayurvedic, Siddha Vedic healing and the traditions of ancient healing systems, and found out why my body wasn't. Why, for example, I cannot eat raw salad.
Uh-huh,
It's always so. Everyone tells you you should eat healthy and raw salad. It's good for you, but my
uh-huh,
body cannot eat it. And to understand that food is very individual, and there is no food that is good for everyone. And so suddenly my whole life shifted in a different way. So I'm working now for this author, and he has in the meantime published the book, and I'm working for him for because he's also supporting 9 orphanages in Nepal. And so I'm working for the foundation that he has created.
oh,
And
fantastic.
within that, I have the opportunity to share my knowledge about Ayurveda and Siddhaveda and also Nia. so
Fantastic.
so he has given me the opportunity to do that. So I'm sharing that, and it's just kind of uh, you go there because I wanted to do something about my book, and then I learned about a different book that was so compelling to learn about that and how these miracles occur, and that they're actually not miracles, they are just science. So it was again a totally change in my trajectory. And so I'm doing that now for 5 years.
Fantastic. Well, you're following your gut instinct. You're letting intuition be a guide, and, uh, in my world of terminology, you see the world through yin sight, through the feminine sight, which is open and expansive and accepting and holds space for relationship, all possibility, deeply filled with curiosity. Things aren't black and white, right? And that is so much part of the yin feminine life force uh, personality or energy, and it's the perfect environment for creating miracles, for creating magic. And what was one story that this gentleman told as a miracle that you went, just kind of,
Yeah, it was a young woman, and he starts the book with that story that really blew me away. That there was a young girl in the hospital in Mumbai,
Mhm.
and she was actually she had cancer, and they were giving her some treatment, and because of that treatment, her whole system started to fail, and she was in a coma. And the doctors told um, the mother that she had to take her off life support, and so that the author, he had a guru, that this master healer, his name is Dr. Noram from Mumbai. And this mother knew that he was in Mumbai and at the studio. So she went there and she said, "You have to come. I trust you. I have seen you on TV. I need you to come and you help my daughter." And he had to fly out. So he sent another doctor, and this author, his name is Dr. Clint J. Rogers, he went with him. And so what they did is they pressed certain points on the body. And what they did is they gave some supplements, and because she couldn't swallow them, they put it in ghee and put it in the navel and kind of rubbed certain body parts.
Uh-huh.
And the mother was pressing certain points, and then they had onions on one side and milk on the other. And he was a skeptic. The author is a skeptic of totally from the West, and he couldn't believe what he was seeing. She is the most, um, yeah, a very modern facility in Mumbai, and they are doing all this kind of weird stuff. But she woke up 2 days later, sitting in the bed and talking, and no one could believe it. And then the other thing, what happened is that they were in this room where, all in all, 4 patients, and all 4 had been in a coma, and all 4 woke up because then the other um, family members also tried the same treatments. And so he was so fascinated, and he starts the book with that. And when he shared that story in Jack Canfield's house, I wanted to learn more about that. That's
Yeah.
how I was so fascinated, because how is that possible that someone who is about to die and there's just nothing. And we just had a friend of mine, she just had a similar situation. She got poisoned and she also fell in a coma and she died actually. And the mother did similar things. They were just shooting a documentary about that. And she was dead for 40 minutes. She was declared dead for 40 minutes by 5 or 6 different doctors. And she came back because her mother didn't give up and was pressing all these points and talking to her, and she came back. And so there is so much out there that we don't understand. But if we believe that, and for me, that was just like an opening of a completely new way of looking at what's possible, and not just believing, okay, when the doctors tell you that, maybe there's more we can do. And sometimes it's things that we have in our kitchen. So that's kind of what I learned
Fantastic.
over the
Fantastic. Well,
years and taking that training.
not giving up. And I think, I love that statement. There's more that we don't know than we know. And keeping that window open is so very important. Well, and Connie, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's been such a delight for me to watch you and to learn from you by seeing how you apply the NIA principles, the movement into your life, the practices, and how you have really taken this work and adapted it and turned it into a practice for you where you can bring your gifts and your talents to share with people in only the way that you can. And I have no doubt that there's another book in you, and and there's more greatness on the way. So, how can people get in touch with you if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, my email is Cornelia R. Merk and at gmail.com. And then my website at the moment has some issues. So I give you the Facebook, and my Facebook handle is Body Centered Transformation.
Beautiful.
So that is, so it's the usual Facebook at the beginning, and then Body Centered Transformation.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you again so much. And if you'd like to get in touch with me, please feel free to go to debbieroses.com. You can sign up to receive at least 2 articles every single week I publish, so you can sign up to receive those. Go to nianow.com to find out more information about NIA, about classes where you can find people like Connie and take a class. And then NIA On Demand, that is the platform and subscription service. You're welcome to go and try 2 weeks free. We have beautiful movement practices, meditations, short movements, 5-minute dance break, all the way up to 1-hour movement art experiences. Most of all, I want to thank you for joining me. And let's remember that this is a very, very important time for us to get in, to lean into each other, to get into conversations and make a difference in the world. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.